Well, hello there, and I do hope you're all well. Now, I'll probably put this one as the last one of this Treasury Committee meeting about our Rishi Sunak's spring statement. But one of the committee members was Labour MP Siobhain Mcdonagh, and she put some pretty good, interesting questions to the economists that was answering their questions. And she starts off with a really, really good one. Enjoy.
Always only got one cop. That's for sure.
Paul, the IFS dubbed the Chancellor as the Fiscal Illusionist in your post-statement analysis. Mr Sunak categorically denied this when I put it to him on Monday. Do you stand by your characterisation?
Yes, well, I think the reason for saying that is because he presented this as a tax-cutting budget as a result of the increase in the national insurance floor and the cut in the income tax rate in 2024, and yet the tax burden, the projected tax burden, actually went up relative to the tax burden projected before. Now, that in a sense, what he did was to take advantage of the fact that huge amount of additional fiscal drag, plus possibly, as Torsten was saying, some tax-rich growth, gave him a large amount of extra tax revenue, and he took advantage of that to cut a rate and to increase a threshold. Nevertheless, he didn't take full advantage of it in terms of cutting taxes, and I'm not saying he should have done, but what the net impact is that the tax burden as projected last week is higher than the tax burden as projected last October. So whilst he cut some bits of some elements of the tax system, overall he left a tax rise in place.
The IFS said that a median earner on around £27,500 a year will be about £360 worse off in the next financial year than in the current year. Could you explain why?
Well, there's a combination of things going on. I mean, one obviously is their real level of earnings will be going down. Someone on that salary will be being made better off net by the two national insurance changes, but worse off by the increase in by the freezing of the income tax threshold. And actually they're actually, I think, just above the point where they would be better off as a result of those tax changes. They're actually slightly worse off as a result of the national insurance and income tax change together. They're obviously benefiting from the council tax and the energy rebate. So you put all of that into the mix, and obviously different households will it'll be a bit different, but net that group will still be significantly worse off in the coming year than in the last year, despite what we've seen since the three policies that the Chancellor has announced since February: the energy rebate, the council tax rebate, and the national insurance threshold increase, have been pretty well targeted at exactly that household, in a sense. I mean, I think deliberately so, but even so, that's still not enough to offset what a lot of other things that are going on. It's worth saying that we think the crossover point for, once you take account of the income tax and national insurance changes, it's only people right down at £13,000 or £14,000 in the medium term who are going to be better off net. I mean, actually still going to be case that nearly everybody is losing when you put all of that together, not next year, but further on. You're looking at, you only have to be about 1,000 or two above the income tax threshold, and above that you'll be losing as a result of the income tax and national insurance changes altogether in the medium run.
Thank you. Torsten, in his statement, the Chancellor pledged to cut income tax tomorrow whilst raising national insurance today. I'm concerned that this is simply a tax trick that will widen the gap between the taxation of earned and unearned income. I understand from the Resolution Foundation analysis that the net result is that anyone earning below 34,000 will be worse off, whilst all those earning more will benefit. Could you expand on the winners and losers and why you think the changes are being made this way?
I found that really, really interesting question, and Tolson gives a really, really interesting answer.
Okay. So overall, if we're talking about changes to income taxes generally, then almost everybody is a loser. As I say, 27 out of 31 million losers, with the one exception. If we're focusing on the combined income tax and national insurance rises, then the only group that wins is the one Paul's mentioning, which is a narrow band of earnings in the low teens. I think it's worth stepping back and saying what's going on on the overall spend is that we're basically the freezes to thresholds, both the national insurance and the income tax freeze from now and the national insurance freeze after the big hike that happens in April. Those freezes are basically paying for the income tax cut. The last 2 years of the freeze is almost exactly the same revenue raising as the income tax cut is costing. So we're basically freezing everyone's taxes, we're increasing everyone's taxes via the freeze so that we can cut their taxes via the rate. That's obviously a silly thing to do just in general terms. In particular, it's a silly thing to do because that change in isolation, leaving aside what's happened on the national insurance rate, means that we are freezing everyone's taxes so that we can cut taxes, and overall only the top quarter of the population by income will be better off as a result of that change. So that's like the back end of this tax package. The front end of the tax package is really bad for the rich, and the back end of the tax package, keeping the freezes but going ahead with the income tax rate, is better for the better off. It doesn't undo the damage to the rich from what's happening next year, but it's overall done. That doesn't make any sense for a whole host of reasons. So that's what's going on the overall revenue side of it. On the marginal tax rates side of it, i.e. national insurance up, income tax down, then what you said is completely right, which is we are choosing to have higher marginal tax rates on earned income and lower marginal tax rates on most other kinds of income. And that is what you would call bananas, not least because we think the technical term is that this is the opposite of what everybody thinks we should be doing, okay? And we are only doing it because a focus group tell us people will understand the national insurance rate going up to pay for the health service, and I've got to prove I'm a tax-cutting chancellor. And it is a really depressing thing that after... I think it was forgivable to make mistakes on the relative roles of income tax and national insurance kind of 20 years ago when we didn't know we had such a big... I mean, forgivable. I don't mean too kind on it, but more forgivable, okay, because we...
Look at his face there. He's absolutely ready to piss himself off. And I don't think he quite agrees with Tolson. But, on the forgivable bit, I think he's very much not a Rishi Sunak fan.
We didn't know we had as big a self-employment problem in terms of our tax base. We hadn't made it repeatedly at that point. So everyone should be damned, but making the same mistake again is really, really bad. And we just shouldn't be doing it.
Thank you, Gemma. On
This is a belter, and this is a cracker, and watch her face when she asks this question, the young lady at side of her. She can hardly contain her giggling.
Monday, I asked the Chancellor about the timing of his so-called income tax cut, and I put it to him that he was determining his fiscal policy decisions around the general election cycle. Do you agree with my concerns, or are their pre-election tax cut headlines just a fortunate coincidence for him?
Look at his face as well. Everybody's chuckling away. Yeah, it's all. We can pretty much guarantee that they're trying to get a general election in 2024, aren't they? I think it's basically obvious.
I haven't seen any rationale for why 2024 was chosen as the date for the income tax cut. Back to the discussion we were having earlier, we obviously face a lot of uncertainty about what's going to happen over the next few years. We always face uncertainties, particularly high levels of uncertainty at the moment about how things are going to play out, which makes it a particularly odd time to pre-announce a tax cut, even though he has kept back some of his headroom. the first thing that came to my mind was the date of the next election when I heard the date of that tax announcement, but I couldn't possibly impart any motivation to Rishi Sunak.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we'll safely say, I think we all know, planning a 2024 general election. Right, I think I shall leave this video here. I think she asked one or two more questions, but I think that's as far as I'll go with this one, because it's reached the 10-minute mark and I don't want to waste any more of your time. Because I think she got the best of the questions out there, and she was very, very good, wasn't she? Well done. Right, I shall leave the video here, and until the next time, I shall bid you farewell. Oh, and have a wonderful weekend too. So, take care.